much, AJ. That was fantastic. It's really important that we get to hear about what is happening on the national and the statewide levels and how we can, as a community, each offering something different, begin to collaborate more directly. We have a few more minutes before lunch, and we're going to do something really fun. We are going to invite up a panel of some of our favorite local abolitionists who are using their lives and resources to combat slavery today in some really practical and innovative ways. So first up on our panel, I'd like to invite Caroline Cotton to join us up here. Caroline, or Debbie.
I am not Caroline Cotton.
Debbie Manzanares.
No.
So Caroline is a cadet, and we have been waiting for her. She had training this morning, so we're transitioning.
Perfect. Great. Okay. First up on our panel, I would like to introduce Amber Newberry of Beautiful and Beloved Boutique. Amber is an Air Force wife and a mama of 4, and she's the owner and the founder of Beautiful and Beloved, a boutique that's online and located in Palmer Lake that exclusively markets items handcrafted by survivors of human trafficking. Come on up, Amber. And then we have Virginia Wright, who is a passionate and active volunteer for the Human Trafficking Task Force of Southern Colorado. Virginia is making her way up here, and as she's coming, I will also invite Roger Patrizio, who's also a longtime active member of the Human Trafficking Task Force, currently serving as a board member, and he is the founder of a nonprofit called Touching the World, which raises awareness of the 27 million slaves in the world today. So I'm going to begin by asking them to each answer a very simple set of questions, and I'll get you all a mic here in just a moment. The first of which is, what initially spurred you to become interested in combating human trafficking? And then what are you doing today in response to that?
Hello. All right, it's nice to see everyone here. Great crowd today. It was about 2002, 2003 that I started to really become aware of the problem of human trafficking, sex slavery. I run a massage therapy school, so it touches into our industry, as we've been hearing through Asian massage parlors. And so I heard about it through a radio show, and then I saw a documentary on the horrors of this, and I felt like I needed to do something about it. But you know what? At first, I didn't. Time went by, and I kind of forgot even that I heard that show and was compelled. But about a year later, I heard Linda Smith from Shared Hope speaking about it, and this time it really convicted me and reminded myself I was supposed to do something about that. And I brought that issue back to our massage therapy school with the idea of creating a nonprofit. And in 2004, we opened Touching the World, and it was about raising awareness around this issue of human trafficking and generating funding that we could distribute to other organizations that were actually rescuing, rehabilitating, and being involved in aftercare. So in 2004, when we did that, I think our first gathering of individuals to talk about human trafficking had about 5 people show up. So it's really great to look around the room today and see how much interest there is a dozen years later. So that's what we do at Touching the World, and then the task force came about, and I got involved with the task force, Betty Edwards, the first symposium, and some of the members, and still involved with that today. And I'll answer the second question. You know what we're doing about it. We're raising awareness. When I got involved in this, fortunately, I didn't hear any great message that I needed to raise $1 million or rescue 1 million girls. What I heard was, get off your butt and do something. So that's what I did, and that's my message, is education, awareness. Knowledge without application really doesn't do us much good. So the fact that you're here today, being informed, being educated, you'll be more aware of the signs of trafficking in your community, in your colleges. So that's one, is just awareness. Talking to your family members, your friends, your children about this issue, spreading the awareness. Secondly, donating. If you feel like you're not a good speaker and you don't know enough about this to talk about it, If you give $5 or more, you are doing something about this cause. And I know you want to do something. You don't want to hear this information and do nothing. So that's another way. If you have skills or talents and you want to serve as a volunteer, we've got task force, we've got many organizations represented here today. So you can use your skills. You can use whatever available time you have to be involved. So there's lots of opportunities. Again, just stand up, do something. What we can't do is nothing about this. You heard the horrors with some of the reports in the CSPD earlier. These are real. These are girls being tortured, raped, right at this very minute. And I know the people who are involved in this issue, everyone in this room who's been involved, we can't live with that fact, okay? It's horrific. We can't sleep well knowing that. And so we're going to collaborate. We're going to stand together as a group of people that want to make a difference. So thanks, and I hope you do something to make a difference.
Thank you so much, Roger. And now we're going to bring up Miss Amber Newberry.
All right, so I got involved. The reason I got involved in human trafficking and it became a kind of a passion of mine is because in a very short period of time, I encountered incredible people who started working in aftercare with survivors of trafficking and helping them to find new meaning in their lives and helping them to create with their hands and with the God-given talents and abilities and make things and sell them. And they all were working, doing really similar things in different countries. None of them had ever heard of each other. And I thought that that was strange. And I feel like when God brings 3 or more kind of people or things to your attention, that's something that you're supposed to pay attention to. So my husband and I sat and we prayed about it, and I was telling him, we're not moving to Nepal, and we're not doing those things all these crazy people are doing. And he said, well, let's pray about what we can do. And one night, as I was falling asleep, I just dreamed about Beautiful and Beloved. I dreamed the name of it. I dreamed all of it. And I dreamed of a global marketplace where all of these organizations that were doing such a great work could come together. And together we're stronger. And so together they could be seen on a greater level, on a greater playing field, instead of just working just by themselves in their own little countries, that they could all be one big kind of marketplace for people who want to help survivors of trafficking get new lives. And my friend Brandy and I call it being a beauty ninja. You find beauty from really dark and horrible, hard places. And that's really, really what I'm aiming to do, is to bring beauty to something that is dark and horrible. And so we started out just with 4 organizations, and now we have 10 organizations in 6 different countries, and it just keeps growing, and I have really little to nothing to do with it, except for that I just said yes when God asked me to do it. So we have a shop in Palmer Lake, and we have a shop online, and it's just kind of growing, and it's awesome. And so what I would say to you is that if this is your passion, if this is the thing that breaks your heart, then you should do something. And it doesn't have to be moving to Nepal. It can be something small, and it could be just something that's tangible to you. So you could just have a party at your house and invite your friends to learn about human trafficking. You could do a book club and read Half the Sky. Because I think that a lot of the problem is that people just don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and you can't do anything about things you don't know about. So you can just step out and say, this is something that breaks my heart, and this is something that's important to me, and you can share it with the people that you love, and you can be a beauty ninja.
I, for one, am fairly addicted to the products that Beautiful and Beloved offer, and be sure to check them out outside. They have a great display. Virginia, we'd love to hear from you now.
Hi, I'm Virginia Wright, and I'm part of the Human Trafficking Task Force. And one of the things I think that got me involved was the fact that someone told me that there was a village, and in this village they only had children that were 13 and above, which meant that somebody was taking the other children. So I was very upset and my heart ached for that. But another thing that got me involved with this was the fact that my granddaughter, she's one of the ones who loved running away. And she would run away, and then she'd come back, and she'd run away again. And then pretty soon she ran away and she did not come back. And she was gone for 5 years. And then one day, out of the blue, she called her dad, which is my husband. My husband and I raised her from the infancy, her and her sister. And she called and she says, "Daddy, come get me." And so he, out of the blue, my husband is a very precious person. And he said to me, "We're going to go get her." He said, "We're going to go get our daughter." And so we have 3 girls, and I'm thinking, well, you know, this one is here, this one is there, this one is here, this one's there. Which one are we going to go after? And he told me the name that we were going after. So she told him where she was. She said, "I'm going to go out to smoke at a certain time." And she said, "And I need you to be there at this time." So we went and we waited in the parking lot until she came out. And she started smoking, and my husband says, "Well, I've got to go get her." And I'm afraid it's nighttime. People are coming out, don't know what's going on. And so he says, "But I've got to go get her." So he went and he went to get her, and then about this time, a guy comes out of the apartment and he's yelling at her, and I'm frantic. I'm in the car and I'm thinking, he could have a gun, he could have a knife, anything. My husband's out there by himself. Excuse me, I need some water. And my husband told the guy, the way he was talking about my daughter, you wouldn't talk to anyone like that. And my husband told him, he says, "You are not going to talk to my daughter like that." And he says, "And I am taking my daughter and I'm putting her in the car." And so my husband and my daughter started off, and my husband turned and he says, "I am from Detroit. I know what's going on." And he said, "And you could have a gun and you could shoot me in the back." He said, "But there are plenty of people out here who hear what's going on. And if you were to shoot me," he says, "there's plenty of people who will testify that you shot me in the back." He says, "So I'm taking my daughter." So we got in the car. I was so upset and worried and just clinging and praying that we would get out of that all right. And we took her home. And she was pregnant. We had the grandbaby. And you think life is going to end just greatly. I mean, she had the baby. We were happy with the baby. We took care of the baby for her and things like that. But things don't go out the way you want them to go. She's almost 28. She works 2 jobs. She goes to school. The guy that she's living with is not the husband. He's not her husband. He's not the father of her 2 children. He has never worked a day in his life. He goes to school. He's been going to school for 7 years and has never worked a day in his life. How many of you would like to go to school for 7 years and never work, but just continue to go to school? And that's what he does. He goes to school. And my daughter, when she was being prostituted out, she was working for a man, a guy. I won't even call him a man, a guy. And so she was taking care of a guy. So now she's doing the same thing. She is taking care of a guy. And there's no way to get her out of that. You talk to her about it, and she gets really upset, and she says, "Well, he's my boyfriend, and you just don't like him." Well, I don't like him. I don't like him at all. I don't want him around my granddaughters, but she likes him. So in order to be with my grandchildren, I have to put up with that. But I keep an eye. My eyes are wide open. Since I've been on the Human Trafficking Task Force, I have learned more about human trafficking and children being prostituted out than I ever wanted to know. I never dreamed that that was in Colorado Springs. When people told me that, I said, oh, yes, it's in America, but it's New York, it's California, but it's not here in Colorado. I have news for you. It's here in Colorado. It's not only here in Colorado, it's here in Colorado Springs. So become aware of that and talk to your children. And when you find a child that has ran away from home, become focused with that child and give that child the love that they need, because they do need love. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia, for that story. And do we have Caroline now? And Stephen, you're welcome to come up too. These two are cadets at the Air Force Academy, and they are part of an organization called Cadets Against Human Trafficking.
So my name is Caroline Cotton. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and I first learned about trafficking when I was 17 years old, junior in high school. My school had a fundraiser, and when I learned about this, I had no idea it existed, but it really bothered me as the kind of thing that once I learned about it, I couldn't just let it go. I remember talking to my mom a few weeks afterwards and being like, Mom, this is horrible. Like, there has to be something that can be done for this. But I was 17 and I was a junior in high school. I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? Be like, hey, stop this? But I started thinking, and my mom, she had the idea. She said, well, you might not be able to do anything, but you can talk to the people who can do something. So I said, all right. So I went and I set up appointments to meet with my congressmen and senators and a representative of my governor, and go and say, hey, this is a problem, and give them reasons why, and it's start to try to build something up to get policymakers going against this. And one of the things that I did when I was trying to learn more about it is I went and talked to a Phoenix FBI agent who was part of the Crimes Against Children unit, and I talked to the Phoenix police. And one of the things that I learned is that in Arizona at the time, there is something called a safe harbor law, which we did not have. Now, say in the current state, what would happen is if you were a minor and you're arrested for trafficking, you're a victim, but you're treated like a criminal and you're put in jail. And so what safe harbor law did is it would make it so that you were instead treated like a victim and given care, and you were put in a safe house when you couldn't leave, but you were treated like a victim. And so I started trying to lobby for that. I'll let Stephen go ahead.
Great. So yeah, I first met Caroline actually by seeing an article in the Air Force Times about what she had done in Phoenix. And I'm a year ahead of her. I'm a junior, she's a sophomore. And so we connected last year to start this club at the Air Force Academy, which the two goals of it are to raise awareness about trafficking within the cadet wing and in the community, and then to also work with organizations and nonprofit groups and groups like the task force to practically serve victims and to participate in events like this. And so we got officially approved this last month actually, and we have about 100 people or so, or 100 cadets who are working with us right now. And a couple of things we're looking to do is we're having a speaker next month from Exodus Road actually. And I just think it's really important to raise awareness within the military also, because we're going out into, like Southeast Asia, Africa, Eastern Europe, and then right here in America, where a lot of times military members act as Johns a lot of places, and also we have contracting within the DoD itself. And so we really want to try to fight this on multiple different levels, and we think the military is a big part of it. One other way that the club is specifically trying to fight trafficking is to partner with high schools to raise awareness within high schools. So we're currently in contact with several of the high schools in District 20 and District 38. And a lot of these kids, especially minors who end up being trafficked, are young men and women who are runaways, who are high school dropouts, who maybe they still go to high school and they do it on the side. And so we think a good way to educate their peers is to go and talk to high schools. So That's about what we're doing, and I'll let Caroline finish up with any comments.
And so when I came to the academy, I first learned about, what the Air Force does to prevent trafficking by, I saw a poster in one of the buildings, and I emailed the person on the poster. It said prevent human trafficking, and they said, okay, this is the area of the Air Force that deals with this, that trains people, because there's mandatory training that, educates you about this problem. But we thought, well, at the academy, let's see if we can get something going that, maybe does more even, that, has some outreach things we can do, some actual actions we can take. And so we focus mainly on education and showing documentaries to educate people about this. And, a lot of people don't know. And one thing I just wanted to touch on real fast, which, I notice a lot just in society, is people, okay, they use certain terms, like, for example, pimp my ride. I know it's a silly phrase, and it really doesn't mean very much, but I feel like there's a cultural mindset where these terms are used interchangeably, and if you really stop to think what that actually means, it means something pretty dark. And so I think just in everyday trying to, when you hear things, just, you don't have to be, I guess, rude about it. You can be very just gentle and non-obtrusive, but just trying to change the mindset of everything and change the way that everybody thinks about this, I think, is a big part of it too.
Thank you to all of our panelists and our everyday abolitionists. They are wonderful examples of what it is to start with what you have, where you are, doing what you can. It is time for lunch, so I'm going to give you a few instructions.